Hi, I'm Mark Doan from New View Communities. Thanks a lot to FATV for coming out today. Today we're going to go through 3 different buildings: the former B.F. Brown School, the former City Annex, and the former City Stables, all of which together make up the Fitchburg Arts Community. So this is the original main entrance, I guess, if you will. Not the main entrance the students use, but the grand entrance, the formal entrance. So we're out looking at Academy Street this way. So you would walk in, the auditorium was on your left, the gym was on your right, for those of you who remember the school. Well, we're here in the auditorium, the former auditorium of the B.F. Brown School. This building, you know, this whole project is being put on the National Register of Historic Places, and this is one of the places where we did a lot to preserve that historic integrity. So in back of you are actually the original windows that have been restored, so you can see those, and you can see how beautiful and big they are. Hopefully just like when you were here at school. Same with the chandeliers, have all been restored up above. The floor is, again, a wooden floor. In this case, I think this is replaced floor, but it was replaced to look like the original. And we have our stage that can be used for whatever things artists might like. And our vision for this, and you know, we have some other original things are still there. The clock is new, but the surrounding is the original one there. What we're really going to do with this space, this is sort of the main amenity space. And how we're going to use it, we're going to be working with the artist to figure that out. It's going to be the artist to say, you know, we don't want to purchase something that if we don't have any artists that are using that sort of amenity, we want to make sure the amenities that we have and the design is going to work for the artists who are going to be there. One of the things that's really special about the way the project was done is that it's because of the way we partnered with the city, and actually the city had some great ideas, so we'll be able to host open houses and things like that. What we won't be able to do here is it won't be an auditorium, so we won't have 500 people watching a play here. And some of that relates to sort of the building code, the fact that we have a bunch of community theaters already, so what was sort of the best use of the space. We considered that and we said, you know, we don't really want to be competing with the great community theater we already have. We're a community development, New View's a community development corporation, so this is something that we'd like it to come from the people who are here to say, this is how we want to do this. You know, do we want to have our open, you know, make sure our open house studios are coordinating with the other events that are taking place in Fitchburg so that they're complementing them and not competing with them, and making all that stuff work as well as possible. So this is a typical 1-bedroom unit, and one of the things that's cool and interesting about historic buildings is it's all based on the number of windows. Unlike a modern building where, you know, it's very efficient spaces, so when we walk through our corridors, the corridors are way too wide, right? Because they were the school width, and because we're renovating this to put it on the National Register, we had to keep a lot of those same basic structural elements. So you end up with oftentimes spaces that are much too big or sometimes a little bit too small because we can't move the windows. You can see how large these windows are. You can see also that we restored the blackboard. We kept the blackboard, so we have that in a bunch of the units as well. But at the same time, sort of, you know, a very modern, functional kitchen here with a dishwasher, stove, refrigerator, freezer, all the things you'd want in a modern kitchen here. And my favorite are fire stops, because most fires happen in the kitchen, so this is an easy way to make sure that you don't have a, you know, if you catch something on fire, it just goes out. You don't have to turn off all, you know, the sprinklers don't come on. So, and all this, everything in the building has all now been rewired. You know, it's all brand new electrical, brand new plumbing, HVAC. So each unit has its own. This is a pretty good sized bedroom, but some of them are a little smaller, some of them are a little bigger. Just because of we're in an old building. So you can see here, this one, I think the elevator is just over here. So that's taking up some space. So they're all a little different. With these big windows, one of the things that happens is that they oftentimes can heat up the units because they have all the light. Because in 1924, when they built the building, right, they didn't light was at a premium, so that's why they have these giant windows. We already saw the main auditorium, which has, the beautiful space there. We have a maintenance people who are just right here all the time. We have the bike storage. We have all the different community spaces. We're right next to Low Park. Having the park right there is wonderful. We have the bike storage. We're close to downtown. So those are just some of the great amenities that are here. And when we're all done, it's also a very energy efficient building. So we'll be putting solar on the roof when we're all done to help reduce electrical costs. But in general, the building is very tight, particularly for a historic building. So the annex, this building was, before the fire at BF, this was one of the most compromised buildings. And it was really a tough decision for us as to whether to buy it or not. And we felt like, boy, if we didn't buy it, it would be this sore thumb just sticking out. So when we were all done, the slate that you see up there, this is a special called a mansard roof. That sort of funny looking roof that's half on the side. So that was all restored. It has original slate on it. You can see the gutters here are the original copper. All the detail is all been restored up on the roof as well. And that's part of making sure the building can go back on the National Register of Historic Places. BF had its issues because of the fire, and there was a lot more damage there because of the water that got in. Even though we had replaced the roof partway through, there's more damage at BF than we had hoped, but this building just had so much. It was lucky that we did the work when we did it, because it was really in very compromised shape by the time we did it. So the roof could not, under today's code, could no longer support the slate that was up there, so we had to redo the structure on the roof. It's hard to say with the roof having been taken off BF Brown which one required more work, but in some ways this building really did require more work because of the compromised nature of the building for so many years. We're at the top floor of the annex building, and you can see, just like BF, where we talked about, we maintained the historic structure. I don't know if you were ever in the building before, but it sort of had this central core. So we've built the apartments off the central core. You can still see up above the ceiling and the way that that's been restored the way that it looked when we first got the building. So this building doesn't have an elevator. It's just stairs. It has beautiful views, and we can take a look at one right now. So this is a 3-bedroom apartment. I feel like this is one of the favorite views of the city. Looking from this height, you sort of get to see downtown and City Hall, and looking over across at Rollstone Hill, it really gives you a sense of beauty about what the city is. This is also a great view of the stables from here. So you can see the slate roof on the stables. You can see how we restored the lettering that said City Stable that was very, very hard to read. And then you have a beautiful view of Low Park in back there, looking up into the Elm Street neighborhood. So standing here, you can see the slate roof, which was all replaced. You can see the letters have been replaced. All the brickwork was restored. And the slope there, which you can't walk up, that was where the horses walked up to get in, and down below was the other part. So the horses could either walk up or down, depending upon where they were needed, because that was originally what the building was for. So this is just one of the things that we did. This is the original boilers. So we found these in the old boiler room, which is underneath there. So we found these, and so we restored them, and we've put one here, and one is in the front of the Elm Street Annex there. So it's a way just to remember our history and also to provide some outdoor art. So the stables is designed very differently from the other buildings, in that almost each apartment has its own individual entrance, as opposed to walking in one main entrance and then heading off to another one. So the architects did a really nice job of sort of taking the building and carving it up into the different apartments that we're going to see. So you can see this one is an individual entrance just for this apartment, which is what we were talking about. So we walk in and we'll head upstairs. So this has beautiful views overlooking Low Park, and you can see it doesn't have it's the stable, so our ceiling heights are normal as opposed to the 14-foot ceilings and whatever that we had in the other buildings. You can see here some of the stuff that we did to restore the buildings to preserve the historic part. But you can see here's the original doors we're right underneath where it says City Stables. This is a very big unit. It has 3 plus a study. And again, this is sort of an example of historic buildings. What do you do with the space? So it's a little bit larger than a modern building would be, where you would just not design it that way. You would just, cookie cutter. Every unit's different, and it also has to be done to the historic park standards. So you can't just put in an extra window and say, great, now we'll have another bedroom. Folks here don't have the amenities of the auditorium, but this could be a perfect place for a writer. So you can see we walked in, but here we are all the way at the end. Yeah. So the architects did a great job of sort of carving up the building. This is only really the second type of this project to be done like this in the state. So the first one was done years ago, and the state didn't use it as a model for anything. So one of the things that's been, makes it even more groundbreaking is that we were creating a lot of the rules and regulations for the state about how to do this artist housing because it hadn't been done here in Massachusetts before. For Newview, it's not just about a building, and it's not just about the tenants who move in there, but it's really about the whole community and the neighborhood. And so one of the things that we do is every 3 years, we do something that's called the Community Impact Measurement Survey. And what we do is we survey 200 randomly selected residents. So we do it in this neighborhood. And it's not the same 200 residents every year, but they're all always randomly selected. And we ask them all sorts of questions about the neighborhood and whether they like living in Fitchburg and, would they would recommend the neighborhood. And so when we started this, we did the first survey in 2013. What we're trying to show is not just an output that is a building, but an outcome, is the city getting better? That's what we want. We don't want a building necessarily. We want to know that the city's getting better, that people like living here. One way that we've really been tracking is, what do people think about the neighborhood? Would they recommend the neighborhood to somebody else? Because that shows you that it really is making a difference. If you're willing to tell somebody else, yes, I would definitely recommend the neighborhood, that tells you something. So we've started doing the survey first in 2013. One of the questions is, would you definitely recommend this as a good place to live? And at that point, only 29% of the people said they would definitely recommend it. And I remember myself knocking on the doors in 2013 and even earlier, and you'd ask people, why are you living here? And they say, it's just the cheapest place. I just want to get out as soon as I can. And by 2023, we've gone from a third to over half to 54% have said they would definitely recommend the neighborhood. And so for us, that shows sort of the impact that not just Newview's having, but all of us working together are having to make Fitchburg a better place to live and to work. And we think that's sort of the ultimate outcome that we're looking for here, is not just a building, not just helping one person purchase a home, not just helping one business open, but how do we make all these things work together? Oddly enough, the thing that I like most about it isn't necessarily just the building, but it's the fact that it's here. When we started off on this project, the idea that, you guys are from FATV, you're part of the cultural economy, the idea that the cultural economy could be something that was an asset to Fitchburg and could be used and could compete with manufacturing and, as an old mill town, that's what Fitchburg came from. We don't want to replace that, but we needed another piece, provide employment and life. So I think the part that I like most about it is that so many people got behind this project and that we're able to restore a beautiful building, particularly a municipal building. It's something that, you walk by, you see a school, you think public entity, and to have this building be back in use and to have a new beautiful life right next to Lowe Park, along with all the other things that have happened, the two-way Main Street, the new restaurants and other things that are coming downtown, the new life that will come in as more people move into downtown. That's the part that I like most about it. And I feel like this space sort of symbolizes that, in that it's being repurposed for, it looks like the old space, but it's being repurposed for a new use and represents sort of the future, but at the same time, considers our heritage and where we've come from. It's not just a brand new building, but it's a way to anchor the future with the past.